That's the best kind. You meet so many wonderful people. Anyway, I am ready. Hit that little thing. Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Health and Human Services and Aging Committee. Currently, today is Wednesday, June 15th, and it's 1:05. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell,
I'm present.
Mr. Sweeney,
Present.
Ms. Turner,
Present.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Ms. Stevens. We have a quorum.
All right, all accounted for. Anyone signed in for public comment today?
No, Madam Chair, no one signed in.
Ms. Lou is not here today. All right, approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was June 1st, 2022. Can I have a first and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sweeney, seconded by Turner. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, matters referred to the committee today were none. I do have my monthly meeting at 3 o'clock with HHS Administrator Merriman, if anyone would like to join me from the council. And today we have two presentations, Eliza Bryant Village and Age-Friendly Cuyahoga County Initiative. Now, that is the order that it was. Is there any time crunches for anybody? All right, we'll go in order. Eliza Bryant Village. Please state your name for the record and the organization that you, and turn on the green button.
Good afternoon. My name is Cecil Lipscomb, and I am the board chair for Eliza Bryant Village. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here in front of council. So, Madam Chair and members of this committee, again, my name is Cecil Lipscomb. It's good to see some of you for the first time in person, and then it's good to be reacquainted and get to see some of the familiar faces in the room. As I stated, I'm with the Board of Trustees as chair over the last couple of years with Eliza Bryant. Eliza Bryant Village was founded in 1896. It has a 126-year history of serving Cleveland's Huff neighborhood. We were founded by Eliza Bryant to care for older Black Clevelanders who were not welcome in the white-only social service agencies of the day. On March 10th of this year, our Board of Trustees made the difficult decision to close our skilled nursing facility. Several factors led to the heartbreaking decision. Inadequate Medicaid reimbursement rates, we're losing $100 per day per resident. Severe staffing shortages, price gouging from staffing agencies, a declining census as more older adults sought to age in place instead of institutional environments. The impact of the pandemic, which made many families wary of congregate settings. When it reached the point that we were losing $350,000 a month, it became very clear that our operating model was unsustainable. At the time of our skilled nursing facility closure, 98% of our residents were low income. Our other programming, including adult day services and senior outreach, affordable independent senior housing, and our Elder Justice Center remain open. So we're still open for business, but we need a subsidy. Our adult day services and senior outreach programs services a 5-mile radius around campus, including Cleveland Heights, Euclid, and other inner ring suburbs. Adult day is a medical model program with an on-site nurse that supports families, allowing them to work and address other family priorities while their loved ones are safely and professionally cared for. The services include transportation to and from our campus for participants, dental and podiatry services, nutritious meals and fitness and wellness programs, social work counseling, music and art and music therapy and massage therapy, off-site field trips and cultural activities, transportation for local elderly to the doctor, to their doctor's appointments, to the bank, and to the grocery store. Additionally, home care to help with light housekeeping and self-care needs. Our caregiver support groups to help caregivers manage the stress they experience in addressing the needs of their loved ones. Our adult day demographics are as follows. 100% of adult day participants are African American. 91% of them live in households whose income is less than 200% of the federal poverty level. 61% of participants are female and 39% male. Our affordable independent senior housing program provides 149 HUD subsidized apartment units for our community's lower resourced residents. Our affordable housing is located minutes away from their doctor's offices, 2 major hospital systems, a locally based grocery store, and multiple bank branches. Affordable housing demographics are as follows. 100% of our housing tenants are low income, as defined by the federal government. 97% of housing tenants are African American. 3% comprise of Hispanic, Asian, and white individuals. 63% are female, and 37% are male. Last but not least, our Elder Justice Center opened in 2019, in December of 2019, and is the only program in the state of Ohio to focus solely on the needs of older adults who have suffered from some form of abuse, trauma, domestic violence, or criminal victimization. The Elder Justice Center provides free temporary lodging and wraparound support services for the growing population of abused seniors. Our community partners help our guests access counseling, legal, financial, and government agency resources they may need to regain their independence and live freely and safe from abuse. The average length of stay at our shelter for each guest is about 4 months. Elder Justice Center demographics are as follows. Any person in Ohio who is aged 55 plus. 100% of guests are low income, as defined by the federal government. 61% of our guests are African American. 21% are white, and 14% Hispanic, and 4% Asian. 86% of our guests have been women. Women living in poverty are 6 times more likely to be victimized by domestic violence, more so than their counterparts in the higher income brackets. Eliza Bryant Village is not going away, but we need your help. We believe Eliza Bryant Village and the services we continue to provide are too essential to fail. We hope that this information and the proposal we submitted on March 25th will help this committee to understand the importance of keeping Eliza Bryant Village and its programming. We at the United Black Fund, I'm the executive director of the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, have been funding Eliza Bryant for a number of years. We will continue to support Eliza Bryant. We're asking the county to also continue to support Eliza Bryant. Our specific ask today is for $575,000, an investment of the ARPA funding to facilitate infrastructure improvements and provide temporary subsidies for our adult day and Elder Justice Center programs while we transition to our new model of services. I want to bring up our president and CEO, Danny Williams, who will share more about those future plans. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Danny.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Danny Williams. I am President and CEO of Eliza Bryant Village. And I want to, on behalf of our Board of Trustees, our staff, and most importantly, the constituents that we serve, I want to thank you for this opportunity to come before the committee to share a little bit about why we hope the county will help us preserve our 126 years of service to this community. You know, as a former county administrator during the tenure of Commissioners Mary Boyle, Tim Hagan, and Jim Petro, I became acutely aware of the vital role that the county serves in the area of health and human services. I also learned how important it is for the county to have trusted partners in carrying out the various services and policies of the county, particularly for those constituents who are under-resourced and underserved. As our board chair has eloquently pointed out, this is precisely the population that Eliza Bryant Village has served and focused on throughout our more than century of caring service. The village has historically been one of the county's trusted partners, having been funded for a number of years through CSSP, County Board of Development, Disabilities, and among other public sources. While it may be true, as a wise man once said, that the poor will always be with us, we must nevertheless be relentless in our efforts to address poverty in its many forms and to evolve and adapt the means by which we serve the needs of the under-resourced and the underserved. So why should the county spend precious resources supporting Eliza Bryant Village? Let me give you a number of reasons. We have been a trusted voice in this community, particularly in times of crisis. I think back just to during the pandemic, we were instrumental in making sure that our staffing, our constituents, those who we had influence over, were aggressive in getting vaccinated. We're currently involved in a collaboration with the Centers for Dialysis Care to promote vaccinations in the community. We've also been very active in trying to address the crisis of health disparities in our community. During my tenure, we hired a medical director, Dr. Gregory Hall, who, while with us, authored a book, Patient-Centered Clinical Care for African Americans, which again tries to help the broader community understand the importance of addressing this, particularly for minority communities. We've been a consistent and committed advocate in furtherance of the vital mission of serving the needs of older adults. We're active on COOP, the Council on Older Persons. We're active with our trade group, Leading Age, both Leading Age nationally and Leading Age Ohio, to promote programs that assist in addressing the needs of older adults. We have a strong and ethical board of trustees that has had the courage and the backbone to make tough decisions, including that heartbreaking decision to close our skilled nursing facility based upon issues that were beyond our control. And despite the fact that we have lost a number of staff upon the closure of the nursing home, we have retained a core of talented staff with the social service, philanthropic, financial management, administrative, and legal skills needed during this time of transition. And then finally, we have a plan. We have some idea where we want to go as we evolve to meet the needs of seniors in the days to come. So during this process, we retained the firm Plant Moran, which has an extensive experience in the elder care space, and with their assistance, we've been able to identify several areas that we believe are mission compatible and within our areas of expertise. And I just want to share with you a little bit about those. One is, as our chair mentioned, we have an affordable housing on our campus. We have 149 units of affordable housing built over the last 20 years or so. And one of our plans is to expand that footprint. And we're looking to do that in two different ways. One is there is in HUD what's called a RAD for PRAC program. And the acronyms are a little confusing, but the bottom line of the program is right now we open those facilities as Section 202 HUD projects, and we're looking to transform them into Section 8. Now, that won't have any economic impact on our tenants. They won't pay any more than they would have paid otherwise, but what it will do is provide us some additional funding to allow us to upgrade the properties, to make some capital improvements, and to make the quality of life better for our current tenants. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect is we've retained a developer, Commonwealth Companies, and they are looking at our current nursing home space. And our understanding is that there's a NOFA, a Notice of Funding Award, coming out by HUD next month, a significant amount. And we want to put ourselves in a position to compete for that in order to consider transforming the former nursing home space into new 202 housing. So we know that there is a need for affordable housing. We know how to manage affordable housing. We think that we can be a credible and important player in expanding the footprint in the Huff neighborhood. Second thing is we want to explore the possibility of getting into the assisted living Medicaid waiver program. If you know about assisted living, it is typically self-pay, and it's a very expensive proposition. I'll just give you an example of Judson, which is just a few miles up the road from Eliza Bryant Village. For Judson's assisted living, the entry fee starts at $100,000 and goes up to $660,000 last time I checked. Now, it may have increased since then. And that's just to get in the door. Then there are the normal monthly charges for the care that you receive. Those kind of number, and the amenities that those providers offer, it's just not possible to compete with that kind of operation. But at the state level, there's a relatively new assisted living waiver program where the state will help new players get into the market and will offer, you still have to have some skin in the game if you're going to be a participant, but it's at a much more affordable rate. And we want to look at the possibility of being able to participate on behalf of those in the neighborhoods in the county who may be interested in that kind of program. Third thing we're looking at is, as I'm sure you know, the focus in funding is moving away from institutional care into home and community-based services. We don't fight that. We support that. Who wouldn't want to age in place, age at home? I liken this in many ways to go back 50 years in this county, we had orphanages. Well, we don't have orphanages anymore because as a society, we decided that foster care is a better way of dealing with kids who don't have family or other responsible adults to look after them. It's not a perfect system, but it was deemed to be better than orphanages. And I think the same evolution is occurring currently in the nursing home space, that we're evolving to a new system, and we want to put ourselves in a position to do that. One way we're looking at, the state is considering an expansion of the PACE program, which I believe we got the slide up there, is the program for all-inclusive care for the elderly. I even have to look at these from time to time because these acronyms, will drive you crazy. But right now, we only have one PACE provider at McGregor, in the state. Yet the need far exceeds what they can do. And so we want to explore the possibility of becoming a PACE provider as the state expands that program. And we also want to look at the possibility of providing home health care. Right now, we provide home care, which is just really light housekeeping and errands. Home health is more of a medical assistance model, and we think that we've got the background and expertise to expand there. There is a pretty heavy entry cost to that. That's what's really kept us out of the field up until now, but we think with the right kind of support, we may be able to be, instrumental in being a resource there. And then finally, we want to look at how we might be able to assist the county in providing temporary space for some of the vulnerable populations that you are responsible for. We've had preliminary just conversations with Director Merriman about how we might play a role there. And as the county decides how it is going to allocate the funding that it's thinking about setting aside for that function, we want to be there and volunteer to, well, not volunteer is the wrong word, but to be a player in assisting the county in addressing those needs. So as our board chair noted, we need assistance. We need assistance to position ourselves to carry on our important mission. The $575,000 that we've asked for really would go to two sources. One is some capital repairs. We have a roofing system that it's not very sexy, but if your roof goes bad, you're not going to be in position to do much service to anyone. So we need to make some repairs to our roofing system, and we need bridge support. But just to give you an example, with our Elder Justice Center, when we started that program about 2.5 years ago, you may know, it's funded through the Victims of Crime Act funding. And that money has historically come from prosecutions of white-collar crime, the fines and penalties that come from those prosecutions. Well, under the previous federal administration, under President Trump, for whatever reason, those prosecutions declined, and that fund got used up. And everyone who was being funded took a huge haircut. Rape Crisis Center, others who were providing valuable services. We went from getting something in the neighborhood of $750,000 in that fund down to less than $200,000. And so the need is still great. You know, we're still working with community partners for referrals, but we're having to subsidize that now from our meager resources, and it's just not sustainable. So we're looking for bridge support for our Elder Justice Center and our Adult Day program while we have the opportunity to find more permanent support for those programs. So we're not just coming to the county. We were advised to make a joint proposal to the county and to the city. The cities, it would be for additional different funding priorities on our part, but we're hopeful that that'll get careful consideration as well. You know, we fully recognize that this ARPA funding creates a unique opportunity, maybe a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it also creates a very difficult proposition on your part to sort through a number of worthy funding opportunities, many more, I'm sure, than you can afford to fund. But we hope that what you're hearing today from us will at least help you to understand the important role Eliza Bryant has played in this community for more than 126 years, and the role we can continue to play with your support. So with that, I will stop. Our board chair and I will be happy to answer any questions you have, and take it from there.
All right. Okay, usually I go first, and then I flip back and forth. So I think last time I started first. We'll go to Councilman Miller and then Sweeney.
So thank you very much for coming in and presenting. And my first question is of the $575,000 that's requested, can you tell me how much of that is on the capital side and how much of that is for the bridge funding for programs?
From the estimates that we got, Councilman, it's about $250,000 for the roof repairs and the balance for subsidies for the two programs.
Thank you. And my second question is if you could help put your story in a larger context, and can you tell me whether there are other organizations in Cuyahoga County that have had to close skilled nursing facilities or other senior-related programs because of COVID-19 and other changes in the funding environment?
I wouldn't have a precise number, but I know that our leading age has estimated that over the next year or so, you would expect to see anywhere from 500 to 1,000 closures across the country of nursing homes. We tend to be at the tip of the spear, and the reason for that is that the population we serve. We're 95+% Medicaid funded, and we're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. So many nursing homes are for-profit. The majority of nursing homes are for-profit, and they're run by multi-site organizations where they have the ability to spread some of the costs a little more efficiently. And so when you have a single-site, Medicaid-dependent organization that's primarily focused on inner-city, poverty-stricken population, we're the first ones to go. So although I don't have precise figures, my understanding is that our trade group expects to see many more going down over the next year or two.
Okay.
If I could add just a couple points.
State your name when you speak.
Certainly, I'm sorry. Cecil Lipscomb, board chair. At this point, it's very clear that single-site facilities are at a disadvantage. We have been approached by several different organizations. The board made the decision not to sell, not to subcontract, because the current White House administration is being more strict on those for-profit entities that are providing services, and probably in some cases justified. And so we didn't want to risk the reputation and long-term stability of good care by doing anything that was radical, like sell a portion of the institution. What we are very clear about is this Eliza Bryant Village is the oldest continuing operating African-American facility in the country for seniors. So at that point, we were at that in terms of our nursing facility. So we were very clear that we had a responsibility not only to our institution, but to the community that we serve.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Chairman, tell me how you got involved, could you?
I certainly
you
will.
read your stuff, but I just want to hear from you.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. It's always my pleasure to find an opportunity to talk more about Eliza Bryant. UBF, United Black Fund, as the executive director, we provide grant funding to agencies throughout Northeast Ohio. Our primary target is African-American focused and led organizations, but really focused in the inner city environments. And many years ago, I was in class at Case with Danny, and I knew him as an individual and as a person. And so as we looked closer at the work that he was doing at the institution, we began to fund small programming at Eliza Bryant Village. One unique day, I took my team on a field trip in Cleveland. We rode bikes to several of our agencies that we support. We literally, from our office, rode bicycles over to Eliza Bryant, and there was a senior activity day going on. The seniors were playing video games, bowling, and they challenged us to a competition. We lost, and we hung our head and walked out the door and funded them ever since.
That's pretty cool. Thank you. I just wanted to get a perspective how, the way you presented through the chair, you can see the passion, but how you got there was a story that's just going to stick with me. And the way you just described and how you just paused and delivered the message as the oldest African-American, 126 years. And I just heard, not under our watch, this is going to keep going. So that's how I heard that. And just one on the funding, ARPA, American Rescue. How bad was the pandemic for the institution of Eliza Bryant in regards to everybody that got layoffs? I got this, I lost people, and I just want because the rescue part is in my brain on this process.
Councilman, as you might imagine, when the virus hit, it hits the weakest segment of our community. You know, we're taking care of the poorest of the poor and among the sickest of the sick. And so I remember in the early weeks and even early months, we were feeling lucky that we hadn't felt a dramatic impact, but it was only temporary. And so, you know, as time wore on, we began to lose a few of our residents, many of them, because some are on hospice to start with. And so those on hospice, perhaps it quickened their demise. But there were others who we lost, and it was just, you know, for the staff who'd grown to know them sometimes over the years, it was just devastating. So we had a greater use of our employee EAP program, our employee assistance program, just to deal with the grief that much of our staff was experiencing from losing folks. And then you start losing staff because these are really hard jobs. The nursing aides were not, and still are not paid a living wage. So we, on our own initiative, when I got there, we're probably paying, the going rate, which is $11 to $12 an hour for those frontline workers. And I said to the board, if we don't get to $15 an hour in the next 2 years, we're not going to be able to hire anybody. And so on our own initiative, even though we had union staff, we raised our minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now, I got slapped with an unfair labor practice charge. I told the board I was going to get my wrist slapped for paying those union workers more money without negotiating it. But I had no choice because second and third shift, we got to have people there to take care of those folks. So we were losing, residents, we were losing staff, we were having to pay more with money we didn't have. It was just a domino effect that really put us in something of a crisis.
And Madam Chairperson, thank you. You just kind of expanded my perspective to a level that was impactful to my thought process, so thank you.
Councilwoman Turner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Well, a couple of things. So during my time at the Board of Elections, I had the opportunity to facilitate voting for your residents with Sharon Little. Please tell her I said hello, and I miss her. And I've had an opportunity to come in and read what Huff reads in the past. But I can attest to the devastation that the pandemic caused in this space. I think we were 2 election cycles unable to come in, and there was a lot of loss during that time, be it staff and residents. My question is about, Mr. Chair, you spoke about price gouging, and I wanted to know if you could expand on that a little bit. What services were being gouged, and why do you think that was the case?
So, from a technical perspective, I don't want to speak out of turn, so I'll let the CEO speak to direct numbers. But we, as a board, would hear, hey, I need more human capital to, as our president just mentioned, second shift, third shift. We needed skilled workers. And so the only opportunity for us in an immediate sense was to go to agencies. And quite honestly, a couple years prior, I had gone through a strategic planning process that we were involved in and visited a lot of facilities around town, as far away as Solon. And I stepped back and I saw that, hey, we're doing okay. Our folks are capable. Our folks are providing a level of service. But when you're overworked, overburdened, you have some life decisions to make about child care for yourself personally. We were losing staff. At that point, when we went to agency, from my recollection, we were paying 2 to 3 times more for a standard position. And so now you take that and go from the $15 an hour person to go from 15 to 45 to a director of nursing who traditionally, let's say, made 80, and now we're paying 240 through agency. So, and forgive me if I quoted wrong.
No, you were pretty close. You were very
Okay.
close.
But that, to me, is gouging during a time where, in fact, the nation felt the impact of the pandemic and the great exodus from employees.
I would just supplement, I think our board chair was right on the money, and then the 2 to 3 times amount. We were just, our director of nursing, at one point, our CFO shared with me, we were paying at the annualized rate of about $270,000 a year for a director of nursing through an agency. And we had no choice because statutorily, you have to have a director of nursing on for a certain number of hours, a day. So it was something that we had little choice about, and in fact, it became one of the priorities of Leading Age to advocate for some kind of price controls, which is not a very popular notion in a capitalist system, and so, but at some point, the pricing gets so predatory that even Congress will consider that. It didn't come to that, but that was something that became a top priority for our Leading Age trade group. Excuse me.
If I could have a follow-up, Madam Chair. Too essential to fail. Can we talk a little more about that? Know that you are a historic institution. Can you remind us again why?
I would say this, and part of it has to do with the constituents that we serve. I don't know about in your family, but in my family, my elders, I'm there now myself, but at the time, they didn't question things. They didn't demand things. You know, they didn't necessarily argue for what they had earned and deserved, you know, from their prior labors. And so they really do rely on us to be those advocates. You know, we know, for example, in the elder abuse space, and I think Adult Protective Services could speak to this as well. We know that those kinds of concerns are underreported. And there's a great need for institutions to stand up and to bring to light, you know, the data that's available, at least about how much that is a problem. Financial abuse, physical, emotional abuse. Those are things where without organizations like Eliza Bryant, who, again, we're the only agency that we understand in the state that focuses on this elder community to address the services needed by abused seniors. Without organizations like ours, who's going to do it? Nobody's done it. Nobody was doing it up until the time we stepped into the space. So when we talk about our services being too essential to fail, that's one key example. We know that from an economic development standpoint, families are pushed. You know, they're squeezed because you've got the workers in the family who are dealing with child care and senior care. They need some space where they can take their loved one and feel confident that they're getting, you know, appropriate care and that they're in a safe environment. So we're not the only game in town as far as that's concerned, but we know that there is a great need that we serve. And so that gives you a little bit of idea why we think that what we provide is too essential to fail.
If I could also add, Cecil Lipscomb again. I get emotional now about the subject because my parents are 81 and 78. And during the pandemic, my father suffered a stroke. And now my mom is trying her best to do that. So I'm going back and forth to Virginia. It is put a different perspective for me. And I have the means to take care of them. And so I just think that, you know, if it were not, if I didn't have the capability to take off work to get them to an appointment, to provide the meals that they need because of circumstances, it would be devastating. And I don't know about any other community, but the African American community, we don't throw away our elderly. We don't. We keep them in-house. We keep them cared for. And for those who can't, there's an Eliza Bryant. And so I remember the first time I saw, I said, wait a minute, you all have oxtail stew for dinner? Wait a minute, it's culturally specific, you know, and that creates home. And so for me, I just, you know, it's too essential because of the oxtail stew.
Thank you.
Councilwoman.
So your request is for 575, and 325 of it is for payment of fees or payment of expenses, or are you using it to bring in a consultant to help you apply for the 202?
I'm sorry, Danny Williams. In our proposal, the consultant fees were what we were asking the city for. We broke it into two sections, and that's on the city section. The additional beyond the roof repairs was a subsidy for the losses that we're experiencing now in operating the adult day program and the Elder Justice Center. And our hope is that, you know, we have some prospects out from a philanthropic standpoint, and our hope is that we'll be able to bridge that gap through philanthropy, but we just need some time. And so that provides a temporary subsidy for those programs while we seek other more permanent funding.
And which programs are those?
That's the Adult Day Program and our Elder Justice Center, the Elder Abuse Program.
And how much did you ask the city for the 202 consulting?
Initially, the consultant's proposal was for $93,000. I believe that was the amount for that. We've been able to negotiate that down since then. And then the second piece, I don't have. Can you share what the second piece of the city's, the consultant and?
You have to come to the.
I'm sorry.
mic.
Yeah, it was consultant, and then we anticipate some legal fees, other professional fees, maybe architectural and those kind of fees to, you know, depending on which programs we wanted. But those were not what we're asking the county for. I'm sorry, that's why it wasn't top of mind.
Okay. All right, thank you, Madam.
Councilwoman Stevens asked one of my questions. I'm going to go, in terms of the skilled nursing program, back to the first slide, can some of the funding that received for the skilled nursing program, is it able to be utilized in any way for the remaining programs?
No, it's not, because again, in skilled nursing, it wasn't a grant. You earned that money by providing nursing services. So when you're not providing nursing services, you're not eligible to get Medicaid reimbursement, because that's, they don't just give you a subsidy. So that money completely.
But I know you had other funding besides, I think the Medicaid was the majority of the portion.
It was almost exclusively that. There was funding that we got through Medicare for skilled services, somebody need rehab and so forth. But again, if you're not serving patients, you don't earn that money.
And so what does the facility look like now? What is that portion? What are you utilizing it at its current state?
It's not being utilized. It's being maintained. We still have overhead. We still have to heat it and cool it and so forth, and to make sure that, so for example, even though we closed the nursing home, we're still paying for landscaping, because you've got to keep up the curb appeal. You can't, otherwise it attracts nuisance, if you will.
I know your administrative offices are in there too, off of one of the wings.
They're in a different section of the building.
Right.
So the nursing section is completely shut down at this point. The adult day wing is still active, and the wing that we had closed off for the Elder Justice Center has a separate entrance, and that's still active, but the nursing facility itself is completely shut down.
Okay, in terms of the residents, were they all able to find another placement?
They were, we had by statute to give a 90-day notice, and that 90-day would have ended on June 8th. We had everyone placed, a few went home, but most went to other institutions. We had everyone placed by May 19th.
And what about the employees that work there? Did they find?
Fortunately for the employees, we had I think 2 job fairs to help the employees. Many of our employees, I would say most of them, were very sought after. We started losing them quicker than we were losing our residents, because those with the core nursing skills, everybody's shorthanded in this industry. And so there may have been a few, but we don't anticipate very much in the way of unemployment hit, because the vast majority found a space. And in fact, we offered for those as an incentive to keep them on board until we had our last resident, we offered a $500 bonus for folks who would just stay. So we had to provide incentives to keep people. They were leaving to other opportunities very quickly.
Cecil Lipscomb. I just want to also add that our consultant, Plant Moran, opened my eyes up significantly to future opportunity. There's a gap, though, in time. So we talked about the disadvantage of being a single site. And so many of these institutions that have taken in our employees and former residents are not single site institutions. So they had operating efficiencies and scale. But I think a question was asked earlier, is this something that is the tip of the iceberg? And yes, we're trying to get ahead of what we think is going to be a huge change for the country in the delivery system that Danny mentioned earlier. So it's in our opinion that while, yes, these institutions can take in these folks, but many of them will struggle to provide ongoing support well into the future. And we want to be ahead of the pack to reimagine how Eliza Bryant can service our community here in Northeast Ohio.
Any recourse by the federal government for the price gouging that you experienced? Is there any recourse you have for that?
Not that we're aware of, and I think it's an issue that many in Congress are reluctant to get into, because it's just not consistent with a free market philosophy to impose price controls. we think it's an important issue to educate people about, because sometimes that political pressure in and of itself will encourage companies to bring their pricing back into a reasonable range. So you don't always need actual legislation. What you need is a bright light shined on the issue. And that's part of the role that we're playing.
I think during that time frame, that was a period to do it for everybody. It was price gouging now, continuing with the gas. So, you know, there's significant times that I think the federal government needs to take a role in that, because we all were suffering, and still, many of us still are. My other question, bridge support. Okay, timeline. So let's get to the programs areas under review. What is your time? These are several different ways that you're going to attempt to sustain the life of Eliza Bryant for another 126 years, hopefully. And do you have a timeline set for these program areas under review?
I would say it's in two stages. That what we're looking at are opportunities, like with the county, for example, where we're looking at short-term use of that space, and then longer term. Our consultant has suggested, so for example, the developer will be looking at the NOFA that will be issued in July. But again, once that's issued, there's a, an extended timeline, probably 6 to 9 months before they'll make a decision about that. We hope the county's program will be initiated much sooner than that, and we may be able to compete for an opportunity there. If we're looking at the RAD for PRAC program, again, that's something that may take up to a year to come to fruition. So each of these, it's a staggered approach, and our goal is to find some early funding that we may be able to get through earned income or through our philanthropic efforts, and then longer term that we'll work with our developer and our consultant to try to bring to fruition.
For your RAD and PRAC conversion, don't want to even know what the acronyms are now. I use them too, but just send that to the, to the clerk, and she'll get that out to the committee, so we'll have a full understanding what those are, as well as.
Some of those are on the slides as well, that at least spell
Was
out
it spelled?
what
Was
the,
it spelled out?
that spell out what the acronym.
I think that-
like PACE and the RAD. I'm not sure we spell out the RAD for PRAC, but we'll certainly make sure that we provide that. Yeah, I do. We spell out the PACE and one other one, I think.
Okay, and then also if you could send your funding sources for your Elder Justice Center as well as your Adult Daycare Center. And you can just send it to Ashley, and she'll disseminate it to the committee. And do you know any, before we end and go to our next, any other questions from my colleagues? Any next steps in terms of what the administration shared with you in meeting with you?
You mean the county administration?
Yes.
Well, my understanding is that there was I believe an RFP that went out, and that it's really premature to do anything else, other than we've expressed our interest and willingness and availability with the space to assist. But until, I guess, the county makes their official awards, there's really nothing further that we can do. Our plan would be then to reach out to one or more of the awardees and suggest to them that we'd be happy to subcontract with them to provide the space that can accommodate their needs.
Okay, so that would probably be under the Office of Homeless Services. I know I talked to the director about that. I just wanted to know if there was a specific follow-up date that you were going to have conversations with her about that.
Well, my understanding is we did reach out to Ms.
Yes, Melissa Sirac. You got
Melissa
it.
Sirac, just to offer her an opportunity to come take a tour.
Okay.
Just so she's familiar with the facility. So we have had that, at least preliminary contact, but anything beyond that seemed premature.
Okay, I'm just trying to find out, do I need to follow up?
No,
or
I
if
think-
y'all, if I'm going to push that or
We've had
what?
communication with Director Merriman and with Ms. Sirac, and we'll follow through.
All right, gotcha. Anything further? Hearing none, we thank you guys for coming out today and presenting. We were eager to have you, I think it was last time, but it
You
was
weren't
better
here and our board
because
too.
I was out of town, and so I got to see the program, or
Very
what
much.
your
We
need
appreciate
is,
it.
or to hear the need. So thank you again. I know Councilman Sweeney needs to leave. Madam Clerk, oh, nothing to read in the record. Let's bring the next individuals up. Age friendly. Please state your names for the record, and if you switch back and forth in conversations, always, we're being live streamed. Make sure that you, please state your name for the record again.
Sure. Good afternoon, David Merriman. I'm the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services. In a second, I know our Division of Senior and Adult Services will be making a really important presentation. Before we do, I just wanted to take a second to introduce Natasha Petricola. Ms. Petricola is serving as the Interim Director of the Division in Senior and Adult Services. I'll ask her to just very briefly introduce herself, although quite a few have met her before, and you know of her and her work. However, we made the selection prior to some changes in our personnel practices, and I know that there was notice, but this happened right at the time where there were some other adjustments going on with the practice of appointing staff into some key HHS leadership positions. And so I thought it important just to let you know that we did, in fact, do an interview process. We interviewed several candidates, and all of them had the skills to meet the needs of the job and could have done a really outstanding job. We felt Natasha had the specific skills right now to do the work that had to happen for the rest of this year. So she is as an interim at TWL, and I'm just going to ask her to come up and introduce herself a little bit more before she jumps into the presentation.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, Council Chair. It's glad to be here. I'm very appreciative to have time with you all this afternoon. I've been with Cuyahoga County now 18 years, and my entire career I've been with the Division of Senior and Adult Services. So I started there with our kinship care program, and when that was eventually phased out, I transitioned to become an APS supervisor. So I've been in Adult Protective Services, and then in 2015, I stepped into the deputy administrator role. And then when our former administrator had left, Tracy Mason, like Mr. Merriman had mentioned, I interviewed for the position along with several others, and was fortunate enough to be considered the interim director. So I'm glad to be here with you all and to meet you face to face. I look forward to working with all of you during this interim period as well. So today we would like to talk to you about and present, and we're going to do it in segments, so I'll introduce my coworkers that are here with me as well and my team, but we're going to talk about age-friendly Cuyahoga County. We're looking at developing a livable community that is welcoming to all ages, but we're really going to specifically hone in on services that were for older adults and ensure that Cuyahoga County is an age-friendly community where people can flourish and thrive and be proud to live and find the resources and services that they need to remain in place. We work very closely with a variety of partners currently, so when it gets to my portion of the presentation, you'll see why it is a very logical fit that DSAS is the person to take on this endeavor. But first and foremost, I want to introduce our first team member who is going to be presenting today, and that's Miss Patricia Newell. Pat is our executive officer, and she's going to start our presentation by giving you a little bit of background and a taste of what age-friendly is.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Newell. As Natasha said, I'm the executive officer for the Department of Senior and Adult Services, but I need to begin by turning around and doing this to Eliza Bryant. I pay homage. I am a proud resident of Cuyahoga County for all of my life until I moved away to Charlotte for a short time. Have had a number of family members that have had their good care. So I just needed to be able to start with what an honor to hear their presentation today. So age-friendly, which is about to be up on the screen for you, It is an initiative. I also need to bring one other person to your attention because you might want to have some questions of him while, during this presentation. So one of our board members, oh, thank you. Thank you. One of our board members, Mr. Doug Tayek, who also happens to be in a very pivotal role with this initiative throughout Ohio. But he's here as a board member, and he's also here as what we call our subject matter expert. So when you get ready to ask questions, we may ask Doug to come up as well. Okay. So the first slide you see talks about age-friendly, what other states and cities and counties are doing with this work. Natasha will be presenting some information later on that gives you the numerical piece of that, where we fit into the landscape for the country around this work. Cuyahoga County is such a good fit for this work. In my preparation for this presentation, I was just re-familiarizing myself with some of the facts. So in 2010, there were approximately 60,000 seniors, and that being people over the age of 55, living in Cuyahoga County. That was in 2010. In 2022, there are 5 times that number. There are upwards of 300,000 seniors residing in Cuyahoga County. So that is the why we are excited about pursuing this opportunity. The baby boomers, it has been said, we are on trend to outnumber the new births. In fact, we've already done it in the nation, actually, but particularly in Ohio. Our citizens over the age of 65 are outpacing our live births in Cuyahoga County at this point. So it's just a make sense body of work for Cuyahoga County at this time. We were really fortunate to have Executive Budish provide a proclamation for this work. I need to also say that under our former administrator, Tracy Mason, who appeared before you many times, she was passionate about this work, and I'm proud to have Natasha in the seat that she's in because she is equally passionate about this work and seeing that we get it done right. I'll give you a little information about,
Ms.
next
Newell,
slide. Oh, I'm sorry,
Ms.
I
Newell.
do that.
I felt that passion, so I'm very happy.
Yes, I knew you would be, Councilwoman Caldwell. She is passionate about this work, and I for one am excited about that. So why are age-friendly communities important? I just gave you some data to suggest that if we're going to be on trend with what we provide for our seniors are younger and younger and younger, and they look more like all of us in this room, myself included. We're living longer, we're healthier, our incomes are higher. So we're going to be transitioning into a longer senior stretch than some of our predecessors had. In 2006, the World Health Organization developed the Global Age-Friendly Cities Project, but in 2012, AARP became their sole partner. So we are proud to partner with them in this work. We could not do this work without them leading the way. As a matter of fact, I was checking with Doug recently around the number of households AARP serves in Cuyahoga County, which I believe was upwards of 150.
105,000, probably 153,000.
About 153,000 members of our seniors right here in Cuyahoga County, our AARP membership involved. So they're going to be excited about this work. They're going to be the people we engage in this work, not to mention our underserved communities. As Liza Bryant was presenting. The epiphany that I had was that we're going to be doing a lot of partnership with them around this work. One of the lenses that we plan on taking with our Cuyahoga initiative, which you will find out as you start doing a little bit more research on this project, is that every city and county that has it, they took a particular road to what was particular to their community. One of the things that we want to do in Cuyahoga County is take a racial equity and inclusion lens to this work. Not that it has not been done, but we want to be very intentional about making sure that everyone can age well. Not just those of us that can afford to age well or live in communities where we can afford to age well. So in 2012, AARP became the sole partner, and they represent the work today. What makes a community age-friendly? We landed right here with the 8 domains. This will probably be the Bible of our work that we're doing with this initiative. There are 8 domains that are mentioned here: housing, outdoor spaces, transportation, communication and information, civic participation and employment, social participation, health services, respect and inclusion. And these are, like, more or less, again, the mainstay for this project, with the belief being that if you're addressing all of these areas, people are going to age well. I loved also something that was said before we came up about people wanting to age in home and age in place. And I just recently lost my mom, who was 91, and I was one of those proud children that was able to keep her in our home until 24 hours before she met her maker. So I know what it feels like to see people prosper because they're at home and because they're in communities where they feel respected. And so these are the domains. You're going to hear a lot more about those as we go forward.
Ms. Newell, which circle would identify like family support? Like,
So family support, so that's interesting that you would say that, because I actually think it's a combination, Councilwoman Conwell, because the family is going to make sure that the housing is in place, be it that mom or dad need to live with one of the children, or if they're able to maintain themselves in their own home. If they have a one-floor house, they might be able to stay in their own property, which, what a joy. I actually see it as a combination, honestly. I was thinking about this last night. It's interesting that you asked that question, because I was thinking about healthcare services and how when somebody is healthy, they're on top of these other things, right? So if I'm healthy, I'm concerned about my housing, my mind is active, I'm involved socially. All of that is family support. I think about with my mom, a big part of our job was to get her to church every Sunday. Until the very end of her life, she wanted to go to church. But that, again, could not have happened apart from me and my brother. So I think it's a combination of all of it. And this is where the partnership will come into, committee. We cannot do this work in a vacuum. We are so clear that we have to have strong partners to do this work, to really embody this initiative. And so we're proud. Natasha will speak to some of our partners that we have already brought to the table, because we're going to need expertise in all of these areas. Transportation, the civic participation and employment. I did not know until I was well into my mother's care that she was not able to take courses for free at our county college, because you can't take courses that lead to a degree, even though they offer the free courses. I never knew that. And so what she wanted to do to stay employable, because she was swift and she was good on a computer, so she was absolutely able to still earn income from that wheelchair, from that house, she couldn't get the extra skills to do what she wanted to do from home. So I think all of it, again, education, employment, opportunity, finances, again, your family support. I enjoyed too what the board chair said about how he's having to juggle going back and forth to Virginia. But he also talked about having the means to do that. And so I say to that piece that even with the financial wherewithal, the cost of keeping a loved one in their home is staggering. And they're just literally, there are no words to talk about how you get that done. So I'm going to turn this over. The last thing I want to say is a livable community, which is that final slide. We're branding our work right now, creating our webpage, hashtag, and okay, get to the next one. And so one of the things we're coming up right now with is our brand. And so you're going to hear us interchanging age-friendly Cuyahoga with livable communities, because we wanted to make this initiative more attractive to people that weren't quite seniors yet, but they're on their way there. And we didn't want people to stigmatize the work as for the oldest in our community, because again, it's our younger families that are having to take care of many of their parents. So they need to have this work in front of them. And I'm going to introduce the person that is really, really doing the heavy lift on this work. So I thank you for Natasha for introducing me as the person who will be managing the project. But we have a project manager in the real sense of that word, named Sonia Walker-Betts, who was literally hired to execute this project. And so she is boots on the ground every day. So if you got a real question, you'll probably be directing it to her. So I'm going to invite Sonia to come on up and continue the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sonia Walker-Betts. So, in a livable community, people of all ages, as Ms. Newell stated, can go for a ride, they can walk, they could go for a walk, they can ride a bike, they can spend time outdoors, they can participate in activities, they can get around without a car. This is where these 8 domains really play an important role, because you think about having level sidewalks. You don't think about things just for the elderly, but you think about mothers with strollers who need level sidewalks, who would still like to take their children out to the playground, out to the park, and who would like to be able to sit on benches that will tolerate, that won't fall apart just because they want to sit down outside. Or even as someone who is aging, you still would like to have the opportunity of working a job. You may not get paid, but you would still like to be able to work. You would like to feel like your services are valued. You would like to be included. You would like to have respect and inclusion. So all of these 8 domains definitely will continue playing a role for our age-friendly Cuyahoga that's not just dealing with age-friendly as far as the older, as far as the seniors, but as far as being age inclusive for everyone. I am going to call Natasha for a moment. Natasha, I think we got a little sidetracked here. Thank you. Who's ever working this, thank you. I'm gonna just step aside and stay here with you.
So I'm going to reiterate why this belongs at DSAS, and it's quite simple. If you look at our mission statement, just, oopsie, very touchy, the remote. It states very clearly that the Cuyahoga County Division of Senior and Adult Services empowers seniors and adults with disability to age successfully by providing resources and support that preserves their independence. We pride ourselves on that. DSAS is also the mandated reporter of adult protective services in Cuyahoga County. So we also not only deal with people who are trying to remain in the community, but we also deal with some of the most frail and vulnerable of our population here in Cuyahoga County. We save lives. We have gone into many circumstances where an APS intervention is the one thing that saved a person from, near-death experiences because of a lack of care, or from being exploited, or from neglect or self-neglect, or from the inability to care for themselves because of some cognitive decline or a functional impairment. In Cuyahoga County, we provide not only adult protective services, we provide the home-based care services that are necessary for those people that unfortunately don't have all the means to pay privately for care in the home and don't have the luxury to have had that planning put in place. And we also assist those that kind of also don't qualify for the indigent programs such as Medicaid. So they're kind of stuck in the middle where they have a lack of resources, but they equally need supports in the home to remain there. We also have benefit assistance programs where we link our consumers, the people who come through our connection center, our intake department, with those vital resources that they may need, such as Medicaid and other options for medical care. We let them know how to enroll in SNAP programs because food insecurity is huge. I know that we talked about just the cost of doing business, and of course, we're feeling it, and we're able-bodied, and we're working, but the fuel costs all add up. The shipping costs will add up. Food will increase. These are all very real concerns for a lot of our clients who are in fixed incomes, who really thought they planned the best they could for this moment, or for some of those people who've become disabled and really had no future forecast that this would have ever become the reality. We have, in addition to our outreach, we do a lot of the senior center programming. We work closely with a variety of senior centers throughout the county. We work closely with our partners in the City of Cleveland, Office on Aging. We work closely with institutions like Eliza Bryant, where Mr. Williams himself talked about the Elder Justice Center. Some of our APS clients are the very clients that we refer to his program. In addition to that, we continue to advocate for the needs of our Cuyahoga County residents, and we strive to keep seniors, disabled adults safe, supported, and independent so they can live their best life. We've had many accomplishments that even predate my tenure with DSAS. One thing that I pride myself on, because before I became the interim director, I was the deputy director of adult protective services. We have the largest adult protective services program in the state. When we are fully staffed, we have 30 social service workers, and we have 5 supervisors and 1 chief supervisor. We investigate over 2,240 cases on average, unduplicated every year. Reports that come in that involve exploitation, that involve self-neglect, neglect, and abuse. Our number one cause of a call coming into APS, 43% of our clients are self-neglecting. So our investigators go out there and they ensure we put some measures in to either alleviate that abuse or, just altogether put in steps that does not occur in the future in that person's life. We have a senior service network of over 60 members where we include them and fund them in some of those cases. 36 of those people do receive funding through DSAS, and they have provided services to over 3,700 clients. We've also provided over 530,000 healthy meals for older adults. We do over 173 hours of socially connected activities at senior centers that we sponsor through our contracts. We have over 1,500 clients currently enrolled in our Options program. Options is very important because Options really is that one program that assists those people who do not qualify for Medicaid and can't go through Passport to receive services, and they're not necessarily, again, wealthy enough to go out there and solicit their own services. So they provide 5 very core areas that are also reminiscent to those domains that we talk about in the age-friendly environment, and that would be meals. They do the home delivered meals program. It involves personal care, it involves homemaking, it involves Life Alert, and it involves transportation. We've had over 70,000 direct contacts with clients. We also show that through our Information Services Department, which is our Aging and Disability Resource Center, we do over $520,000 in cost-saving benefits through that program. We provided over 80,000 trips to social and medical destinations for our clients. We also have a very innovative behavioral health teleassessment program that since the pandemic in April of 2020, we partnered with the Cleveland Clinic and their team of geriatricians, where we have a behavioral health nurse who's embedded in APS, who will go out there, and for those clients that are not connected to any medical care, she will help facilitate the assessment process, and because she's a nurse, she does other vital things that she can report to the physician. She can report that there's weight gain or weight loss. She talks about medication and she monitors that. She can check blood sugars and blood pressure and everything else because of her status as a nurse. And out of that partnership, I'm proud to say that those clients that were not connected to medical professionals, which are definitely the majority, 98% of them after that visit become connected to a physician. That's huge when you talk about somebody's sustainability, quality of life, and just living longer. And 94% of our clients, when surveyed, said that home support, our home health aid program and nursing program, has helped them remain sustainable and live up and being able to live in the community. So these are the social determinants of health. There's 6 of them. And so DSAS aligns with the majority of these. We are doing this currently. So priorities, especially in recent years, have been food insecurity and addressing that. Behavioral health, also coupling that with geriatric help and well-being. Housing, which is a huge issue. Housing costs are astronomical. Even to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, a lot of seniors on a fixed income cannot afford to do so. Most people with 2 household incomes are struggling at times to do this. And with the way the costs are increasing with even home ownership, now more than ever, we have to be very vigilant to ensure that everybody can live somewhere, right? That we can deal with avoiding any kind of future homelessness, whether that be younger individuals or especially our older adults. Transportation also becomes a very huge issue as one ages. There are sometimes limitations to being able to drive, and people that were once very independent may find a very strong loss of independence when they're no longer able to do so on their own. And just overall social connection. We know that people who are depressed, it leads to premature signs of cognitive decline. It's definitely been something we've been watching since the pandemic because a lot of our seniors definitely became more socially isolated throughout that beginning stages of the pandemic when senior centers were closed, when medical visits weren't happening as they should be. So our network, we are the 665th agency or entity to apply to be an age-friendly community. As you can see, these are just some dots of different places and regions around the country and how many age-friendly communities there are. We also included below that Ohio has 13 cities and 6 counties that are already age-friendly communities. It only makes sense that a county such as Cuyahoga would join in the ranks of these. Lastly, before I turn it over back to Sonia, I just want to talk about the benefits of becoming an age-friendly community. Pat did introduce Doug Tayak, and Doug is with AARP, and he's been very instrumental in this whole process. He's given us resources that were beyond ample, and his involvement with AARP really has put us in a position that we can be extremely successful in moving this forward. We are also planning to incorporate a diversity, equity, inclusion in all the work we do. You know, I was told that we have to think of some goals that align with our agency, and I can't think of any other better goal of working with the community than to incorporate not only age-friendly, livable communities, but also the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion into what we're doing. This is a cradle to grave kind of effort, but it's not discriminating against socioeconomic status or neighborhoods. We are going to work with our partners in all communities to ensure that we provide them the support and the wherewithal to have people in their community aging successfully. We have ample tools that we'll be using, and we are partnering currently with Community Solutions, who is involved in the assessment phase of this process. There's actually a meeting that's going on right now at 2 o'clock with our community-based committee, which is an offshoot of our advisory board. It's also one that Yvonne, Patricia, and Doug and I all belong to. And today they are actually going over that survey that will be distributed across all zip codes in Cuyahoga County and all demographics. We are also working on strategies for monitoring this process to ensure we're reaching milestones and ensuring that we're successfully incorporating everybody that we need to in this process. It really has opened our eyes to various partners that we can call upon who are experts in particular fields, whether it be transportation or healthcare or housing, and that they can tell us what they're seeing also in their industries as needs for our clients. So I'm going to turn it over to Sonia, and she's going to talk about getting started. And you know how to work this, right? Bring your one.
Thank you, Natasha. Okay, so Natasha has given you all a brief history and just some whole benefits of the Age-Friendly Cuyahoga initiative. So this is a part of our project plan. And so, as you know, our project plan would definitely be a working document because this is something that we'll be adding to and utilizing in regards to our checks and balances for our Age-Friendly Cuyahoga initiative. So we have began with researching the ARP application process. We've been identifying key stakeholders to help us in moving forward with our Cuyahoga County Age-Friendly initiative. We've researched other age-friendly cities and county models. We have been in contact with Summit County Age-Friendly Coordinator, as well as Franklin Columbus County. And we met with Summit County as well as Columbus Franklin. So we've had good supports in regards to those being our peers and cities and counties who have become age-friendly initiatives. We have also developed our internal infrastructure. So we have an age-friendly work group that meets every other Monday. I had to get my thoughts together. Every other Monday, as well as on the off Mondays, we meet, myself, Pat, and our interim director. So we meet in order that we can just keep our juices flowing, so to speak, in regards to building our age-friendly brand. So in regards to our whole project plan, getting started with our working document, the goal for us is to introduce, our age-friendly initiative across the county. We are building partnerships with various agencies in order to support our work. So the partnerships that we have thus far include our DSAS Advisory Board, our Community-Based Committee, the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, the Cuyahoga County Senior Services Network, the Council on Older Persons, our resident focus groups. But one thing that we just need you all to keep in mind is that through it all, we have to inform, inspire, and include everyone with this initiative, as age-friendly doesn't exist without the voice of the community, because a livable community is definitely the ultimate vision. And to close us, I am going to turn this back over to Pat, I believe. Okay. Over to Natasha.
All right, Natasha Petricola back up here, and I want to just talk about where we're at the process so you understand. The application was submitted. That was back in April, and we received support from County Executive Budish and a proclamation, and we became mid-April the 665th community to enroll in the AAR process to become an age-friendly community. So we're kind of right now in the works of getting a lot of the first steps. This is a 5-step process, kind of a 5-year process to kind of map that out. The very first year is all the assessment. And so we are working, like I mentioned earlier, to have Community Solutions develop the survey that will be sent out across Cuyahoga County to all residents. The method they use basically is they have data that shows voting demographics, so they're able to hone in on specifics as far as age requirements. So those will be randomly selected people who will be receiving a survey in the mail. We will also look at electronically giving those surveys out. We will look at communicating with partner agencies, senior centers, community centers, to get surveys into hands of the people that they're serving. We want this to be a very well-rounded survey that really captures what the pulse is of the community we're trying to reach. We are very particularly interested in underserved areas of our county and zip codes that show low enrollment in programming, that may show lack of resources, that might be economically more in a worse state than other communities. But equally, we want to look at everybody so that we get a very good blueprint and picture of what our future steps will be. In addition to that, we will work with just different providers throughout the county to let them know that age-friendly is something we're trying to make a reality here, and that we will ensure that we'll do the best we can to continue to bring back to our planners and the people that are working with us any suggestions to further our outreach in general. So the next steps would be to join the network. Our assessment phase is occurring right now. We anticipate those surveys to be done about the first week of July, after we kind of go through and include other people to see where we're gauging some of the surveys. They're looking at housing, they're looking at food insecurity, they're looking at what people are interested as far as socialization. They're looking at higher education. They are looking at people who are still trying to be employed, even though they might be an older adult. So the surveys will kind of pull together the direction we're headed. Year 2 would be partnering with the Center for Community Solutions to do more in-depth work. We would then pool all together some of the findings that we have, and then by year 3 and 5 would be the implementation and evaluation phases. And then by year 5, by ending this whole process, then we start to look at how we can improve what we've already implemented. Are there things that we may have foregone? Are there areas we need to tweak what we're trying to get done in our communities and in this county? So that's kind of a very quick explanation of what age-friendly means. You know, we brought this here today, and we plan to give continued updates and let everyone know how the surveys are going. Once those surveys are kind of established, we'd love to have additional feedback from all council members, as well as anyone else who you think that you would like us to ensure that we incorporate in this process. We are very open to suggestions. This is kind of uncharted territory, but yet it's very second nature to us because of the services we're already delivering at our agency. If there are any questions, I'm going to have Pat join us back up here, and hopefully between the three of us, we can answer any questions you may have.
I'm looking at for the surveys, nursing homes. Of course, I know you probably got the senior center covered, right?
Yes. And because,
I'm sorry.
because we have that senior servicing network, it's going to be pretty easy to get those surveys to those people. The thing that we were told when we were planning this out is we don't want to give all the surveys to people who are receiving services.
Right.
It wouldn't make sense. They might be very satisfied in what they're receiving because they are getting what they need. So that's why it's very important that we really look closely at some of the zip codes that are underserved, some of the areas that might be more impoverished than others, where there might be not as fluid resources or access to medical care, to transportation, or just, ensuring that people that don't know what's out there can finally understand that there are resources that are plentiful, and you don't have to be extremely indigent or very wealthy to access them.
I did have a couple questions. Okay, in terms of, just wondering, looking at your eight domains of livability, have you thought about the seniors who currently are taking care of adult developmental delayed children?
We actually have on our community-based committee, Kathy Rush, and Kathy had worked for years for the Developmental Disabilities Board. She's very instrumental in making sure that if we are forgoing a certain population, that we are bringing them to the table. So yes, I think that is very relevant, because even in the world of APS, we will find that we have an older adult child, maybe on the younger side in their 50s, and the parent now has dementia, or somebody suffered a stroke. And because that was a generation that was very fearful and protective of children with developmental disabilities, they kept them home. They sometimes sheltered them from schooling. It's a different age right now. There's different resources. There's not that stigma attached. So we will see parents end up in the hospital and they have an adult child with a developmental disability that's kind of left to fend for their own. So in this whole kind of recognition of these livable domains, I think it's a very relevant conversation to have with everybody about just planning, whether it's a power of attorney, estate planning, if you've got, dollars that you're worried about, and allocating for your own personal care in the future. But I think that's a very real conversation that needs to happen, and it's probably eventually going to be somewhere in that survey to talk about portions like that.
And my other thing is, when I was introduced about, and I keep hearing the word map. So in my mind, and tell me if I'm wrong, when we talk about senior services and making sure that they're all in the community, I physically thought that that's what we were going to try to do. So if they needed a grocery store, am I wrong, or is it just a map, or is it just we're identifying the needs and what communities need what, because all of the communities now have seniors?
So the assessment phase, Councilwoman Conwell, is.
Excuse me, can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry. The assessment phase is specifically to help us hone our path and to figure out where we need to put our emphasis. So we want to hear back from the seniors and the communities that need to see their communities helped in this area. So if like you said, if it's a grocery store, if it's a healthcare facility, that is what we're looking, that is the way the model is set up, that the assessment phase leads you to the planning phase. But the goal is absolutely to do something about it. One of the things that we didn't mention when Sonia was talking about people that we've spoken with and been mentored by, the city of Cleveland already had an age-friendly Cleveland model. So we're very fortunate that we're also coming behind that effort. Okay. And we are already partnering. Natasha and Mary McNamara have been talking quite a bit to talk about how we can pick up on some of the things that they didn't get to do. And they've been really, really helpful. So again, trying to build on what was already done. The only other thing I wanted to say to your question prior was the reason the regional areas make sense for how we're going to do this work is to make sure that each one of your districts are represented. So our CCSSN model actually mirrors the county council structure. So we have a membership in every single council person's district, and we're going to be leaning on them to help us, reach those seniors that may not be able to do those surveys that come in the mail. So we're going to actually even be relying on our centers to hold the focus groups so that if there are people that would get the mail, maybe they had cataract surgery, so they couldn't read the survey if it did come in the mail. So again, those healthcare challenges, especially for certain groups of people, we want to be super sensitive to that. And that's where our community centers are going to help.
And I just have a couple more. So my other one, under the 6 social determinants of health, I kind of put it on that page. Really taking a look at the, because I know housing was one of the livable things on the map. The predatory sales that are going on now with the seniors, getting them trying to sell their homes, and them, for whatever reason, you know, we all have everything, every day I think we all notice something changing with us. So I'm just looking at the predatory sales, talked to the Department for the Investigators for Fraud, and there's really nothing that they can do in terms of people that are reaching out to seniors to try to get them to sell their homes, because they can. But since you're going forward with this age-friendly, is that some kind of the conversation that you're looking at, helping them and educating them in terms of how the market has changed? If you are going to sell your home, how do you get a good appraisal for your home and not just one of these signs that say, I'll buy your home? And then compare, right, and comparing that to where you would live. You get this money, how long is it going to last, and where are you going to live because of the rising rent rate? So I was just wondering if you guys are just thinking that's a big whole
Excuse me,
new
Madam
thing.
Chair, can you speak a little closer
Everybody-
to the microphone? Thank you.
Everybody is, you know, predatoring on seniors because they're living longer.
Yes.
You know, with sales, anything. So I just wanted to bring that focus to your attention and make sure that.
I think also that falls in line with exploitation, which is one of the things
Right.
we investigate in APS. And we also work very closely with Consumer Affairs, Cheryl Harris and her
Yeah,
group at
that's
Scam
the
Squad.
department.
Because there are so many scams that are running rampant right now, just especially during the pandemic. You have people sitting at home and just cold calling. And when they catch that fish, that proverbial person on the other line that kind of bit that hook, their data even gets sold to other scammers. So once you become a victim of scams, it's very deceptive about how other people come into your life, and then they'll try to offer you a new scam or another, you know, access to something, whether it's a romance scam or, like you said, the predatory lending type things. And exploitation more so hones in on the relationship. So with exploitation, there's actually somebody, as it states in the law, that's a physical person. There's a relationship there, whether it's family or your new best friend or somebody you met through a support group or somebody at church who kind of manipulates or takes advantage of an older adult. So I think they're always in the forefront of our mind. Sometimes with housing, because of predatory lending or because somebody's been scammed or is actively being scammed, they end up homeless. We have quite a few women at Norma Her that are older, that we
60 plus.
work very intimately with that organization because we have women living there that are sending their monthly income checks to this romance scam person that doesn't really exist. So we're trying really hard to definitely address that. Affordable housing is a big issue. People want to stay in the communities they've grown up in, where they bought their first home. People don't want to ever move into a nursing facility, right? I don't think anybody says one day, boy, I can't wait to get into a nursing home. That's not the American dream, right? You know, you aspire to do certain things. We've watched our parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and relatives all, you know, graduate into this kind of adult world where we think this is what you should have. So I think we're very sensitive to housing prices. I think we're going to be very sensitive to affordable housing for seniors in areas that they want to live, where they can walk to the grocery store and feel safe. I mean, that's another thing that, you know, all communities, I think, across the country are experiencing. We also have a lot of violence going on. We have people with mental health issues that aren't getting services. So I think this all plays into the fact that as you grow older, you should feel confident and have the ability to walk outside your door and be able to congregate with friends, to catch a bus, to wait for your ride from Provide a Ride, or one of the other transportation sources. So it'll be very interesting to see what people identify as the foremost needs that they see in their communities with these surveys. I think it's going to be very telling, and the data is going to be very rich to kind of give us an angle about where we have to prioritize. But this is such an ongoing process. It's not like a one or done. This is just year one. And then, you know, we're going to expound on this year after year, but it is a 5-year process.
And I think our strategic partnerships, to respond also, Councilwoman Conwell, this is where our partnerships are going to be critical, because we know that there's expertise here in the county in all of these domains, in all of these areas, and we're going to be working closely with those folk who we consider to be experts in that field, so that we are teeing up the conversations that we need to be. And also to answer your question about the goal of this project at the end of the day is actualized services. So what I thought about when you asked your question was City of Cleveland, one of their actionable goals was they came up with their affordable housing program where they started giving more financial support to help people fix up their homes that were having to move out of their homes, that if they had a little help with the roof or the furnace, they might be able to stay in there. So all of this is to end up in some action planning. There will be a real product when it is over, but the goal is to let the community design that for us, and we'll be in lockstep with them.
I'll be very interested to see how this rolls out, because I know these are very key, you know, they're living longer, they're our population, we want them to remain in the communities. I love having seniors as neighbors. They motivate me to do the yard, you know, keep the flowers up. And then I can rest because I'm not hearing kids at night. So it has its advantages. So I want to keep them in their homes as long as possible. I want to open it up to my colleagues. Councilwoman Stevens.
Yard envy. It's great for neighborhoods. I don't have a lot of questions. These are great programs, and I hope to grow into a couple of them.
Councilman Miller?
So I know that DSAS is involved in most of the areas that have been identified in the 8 key areas and the 6 elements. My question is are you aware of new services that might be identified at this point that we might need to start providing?
I do think so. I know once upon a time we had a little dream at DSAS that we were going to start some kind of housing initiative similar to SHAP with the City of Cleveland, which is the Senior Housing Assistance Program, to look at the suburbs that aren't supported, obviously, through the City of Cleveland's program, to make some of those repairs that could keep a senior in their home. So I think out of that was one thing that we've always thought about as being instrumental and possibly helping somebody with a ramp. These aren't like major endeavors where we're adding a wing to a home. These are small steps, grab bars, maybe modifying some areas in a home that would allow somebody the comfort of remaining in place and aging in place. Age-friendly and livable communities really is about that. It's about looking to stay where you're at and kind of provide and wrap around services and wrap around programs that can allow somebody to do that. So I think that's one, Councilman Miller, that we have been thinking about for a long time, but the pandemic happened, unfortunately. So a lot of those discussions were stalled. I remember meeting with the City of Cleveland in February of 2020, and I know that Tracy had spoken to Councilwoman Conwell several times about this, and we were really looking forward to that. So I think hopefully out of that, this might grow. I think there's other things that need to be more preventative in nature. Access to health care, ensuring that people have adult daycare, that it's readily available, that they have places where they could get transportation to do more socialization. Somebody who is in front and center of somebody is not going to necessarily be abused or exploited or self-neglecting, because there'll be people around them recognizing that, searching for help and avenues to stop whatever it is they see in the decline of the person. Healthcare is very important. You know, people live longer if they take care of themselves. And if you don't have access to that, how can you live longer, right? And even provide less strain, if you want to call it that, on a community, because it's very expensive to go into long-term care. It's always least restrictive, and to get the help into the home rather than to put someone into a nursing facility if it can be helped. Now, there are some people inevitably that is their fate. And that's why we have to ensure that our nursing facilities are up to par. And there are people that the level of care just surpasses what they can receive in the community. But until they get to that point, we should put every effort into letting them remain in the community until that threshold is finally passed.
Madam Chair, there are also areas where you anticipate that we would identify a need to expand services that we're currently providing, and if so, how do you believe we could accomplish that?
I think a lot of it's going to be also community engagement. When we figure out which areas might be rich in resources and doing something well, that might be a model we can replicate in another community. I think sometimes we don't talk well enough with each other to really understand that somebody finally has a niche or a specialty or found their groove in how to deliver a certain kind of service. So I think this will open our eyes to step away from like little fiefdoms, or be more regional and collaborative in our efforts. I think that that's easily attainable because we do have such a rich senior servicing network. Like Pat referenced, every one of the districts here is represented by somebody in your areas that actively communicates with DSAS. And I want to make this very clear. I don't want anyone to have misconceptions also about communities people live in and needs they may have. You can live in a very affluent area of Cuyahoga County. Does not mean you can afford to remain there. We've seen what's happened in some of our very trendy neighborhoods, such as Ohio City and Tremont. Home prices have soared. Taxes then shall increase, and the people that have lived there their entire lives may not be able on a fixed income to afford to live there any longer. So that's a real common concern as far as housing. Also, just because somebody lives in an area that we consider a poorer area doesn't mean that there are resources, their churches are in those areas. They might do community service in there. They might have support groups or senior centers they want to be a part of. So we have to really change our frame of mind that people can choose to live wherever they want, but they have to have accessibility to everything that they need. It's a very lofty, ambitious goal, but I think we need to start looking that way, right? We can't just sit there and not move forward. So I think, yes, I think a lot will come out of this, and maybe some very telling signs and tales.
So one thing that I hear all the time is that government should be more data-driven, and that we should go where the information takes us, and this is certainly a very serious effort along that line, particularly in the area of needs assessment. I would encourage you to make sure that you also do measurement in the area of what are we providing and how effectively are we providing it, and how can the effectiveness of our services be improved, so that we're not only measuring what's needed, but also measuring how we're doing at meeting that need and how we can do so better.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Right now, I'm trying to finagle in my budget how we can create a position at a very high level through performance evaluation and innovation, and that would be a business information analyst. And that person would do exactly that, not just say, oh, we served 900,000 meals and we had 250 people in, options enroll. We want to really look at what is the benefit of participating not only in DSAS services, but I think we're going to draw that in once we can get these positions on board. We have a somewhat robust PEI department with the county, but I think there's lots of room to expand that. This requires kind of a high-level specialty because they're really analyzing data. They're really looking at the return of investment. They're looking at what is the cost benefit and what are we actually providing the consumer that we're trying to provide services to. So numbers are very, very important.
Thank you very much for your responses and best wishes for success.
Thank you.
I'm not going to belabor this. I will talk to you offline. So the other question, I'll have the clerk send you a few.
Thank you.
Because I have another meeting. And Councilwoman Turner, is there a funding need as the phases are implemented? Don't need to answer that now, but I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Turner did.
Quickly, so we are live streaming, and I had a text message from a watcher who wanted me to be aware, which I was, that you ladies have coordinated your beautiful purple to bring awareness to elder abuse.
Today
And
is
you are
World Elder Abuse
beautiful.
Awareness Day.
It is. I got on a shade.
Yes.
Kind of. I also wanted to mention that I have partnered twice with the Cuyahoga County Office of the Treasurer to have conversations about delinquent property taxes. That was a big issue we had last Friday. We were in Shaker, and all of our attendees were over 62. And they were very interested in that topic. So that's something you may want to think about in terms of services and community engagement. What was the other thing? I wanted to also publicly congratulate Lance McElrath on being your APS Worker of the Year. And then finally, I had a question about the surveys. Is that specific to a certain age group, population, or
We're looking at 15 older.
50 and older?
It's 50 and older, only because before you know it, 10 years will go by. And so we're trying to be proactive and really looking at what somebody at 50 may need and how they grow into aging gracefully and what they may need in 10 years and 20 years and 15 years. So the surveys will have a little bit of a younger demographic.
Okay.
And those are also the folk that are traditionally, the data is telling us, those are the ones that are caring for these seniors. Making that hard decision whether we move mom in and build a wing on the back of the house or whatever the case may be. So we want to make sure we're getting information in the hands of the caregiver of the senior as well. So that was another strategy for going to a younger age demographic so that we're reaching the people that are helping their parents.
Sense. Well, welcome to the team and congratulations on your new role. I also wanted to just acknowledge Denise Rucker-Burton, your other team member back there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for having us.
All right, and thank you for coming out and presenting. We appreciate it. We look forward to having updates. You can, I don't know, I guess after the survey has completed, that would probably, and what your findings are, that would probably be a good time to have you guys back. Any miscellaneous business? Seeing none, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.